today, instead of having me reading Orlando Furioso because I finished it, I've decided for the next couple of videos, probably getting myself to the weekend, I am just going to chat about Orlando Furioso, try and come up with a bit of a game plan for talking about the work in a video. Um, yeah, yeah, just like it's one of these things where I've got all these various different imagery from the book, primarily, I guess, Orlando going insane when Angelica, this pagan princess, pagan heretic, I don't know what, princess says, nope, I don't want to be with you, and flees, and then does indeed choose someone else. And it's not a great battle god. It's not a murder machine. It is this one fairly humble young guy that she's like, nope, this is who I'm picking. And that driving him insane. This is interwoven with the story of Ruggiero and Bradamante, and at the very beginning, very much the wizard Atlante trying to keep them apart because he has foreseen that when Ruggiero does marry Bradamante, that he will die soon afterwards. We know because of the particular heritage of this book that they will have issue though, because Ludvigo Aristo is writing this book. One of the ways he's writing this book is that Rodomonte and Bradamante, their ancestors go on to at least reputedly found the Este family, and his patron is one of these Estes, apparently a real miserly asshole who didn't particularly reward his subjects very well, and didn't reward Ludvigo Aristo very well for all his crowing. And we definitely do get crowing about the great Este line and how this is the greatest, most perfect kind of culmination of all of this. So we get that. I mean, I think probably the big thing to look at in this book is it actually kind of it's notable how much it actually calms down. But at the beginning, we are bouncing from story to story to story to story, from Rodomonte to Bradamante to Astolfo, various other knights and stuff like the story. It's like it goes ping, and then it just branches, and it's insane, and you have a hard time keeping the whole thing in your head. I think, I've talked about one story already of Astolfo and him and his group with, I think, Marfisa, who is the sister of Rodomonte, them getting shipwrecked up in this society of women who have, because of various grudges and legitimate grievances, has decided to separate itself off from, like, in the time of Homer, for the last 2,000 years has been strictly a matriarch. And that story, we get, and Astolfo blowing the horn at the end, dispersing them all. I don't know if that dispersed them permanently or not, or destroyed them all, but there's that story. There is a lot of male anxiety in the story, which is the big thing. Orlando being a key thing of him losing his brains when he finds out that Angelica has gone off with another person. Um, but we get the various jealousies of Bradamante, of Ruggiero. We have a whole thing with Rodomonte, this other pagan super weapon. These guys are like, it's like there's normal mortals, and then there's these guys who basically can take on entire armies and destroy them. They're like aircraft carrier level death and destruction here. And them trying to, the whole thing of consent, of, like, women not really particularly having much choice in the matter of the thing, and also a lot of male anxiety about, oh, women are always going to cheat, and Aristo kind of comedically kind of wavering back and forth with, like, oh, I don't think this, it's just that all the women I've met have been complete cheating bitches, kind of that kind of narrative in there. It's a work which I will make sure I actually have the proper dates for when I actually write about a thing. But yeah, all this sort of stuff in one giant mishmash. Is it? I often wonder, like, is this a work that you could compare? Is there a reason why this is a minor work in a way? I mean, it's lasted this long and it is quite amazing, but it's operating on a different level, I think, than probably a lower level or just a more earthy level than something like Dante. You know, they go as high as the moon in this poem. Astolfo goes as high as the moon, where things that are things that are lost are stored, and one of those things being Orlando's sanity. But it doesn't really you know it's a more secular work in a way that way, even though Orlando's madness could be blamed on a couple of things. One of them might be divine punishment, though that comes much later in the poem. Is almost, it feels like an afterthought to me versus something that versus no, he saw that this woman picked someone else other than him, and he went insane and rampaged around the world naked, murdering everyone. Another Orlando being another one of these aircraft carrier level rainers of death and destruction, even without any arms. Um, and I'm probably going into the whole thing of just like um, his whole Orlando's whole issues gets kind of, it's not a work where Orlando learns anything. It's more like, oh, it was heaven that did it, and Astolfo gave him his sanity back, and then the story was over for him. But we kept on going with Ruggiero and Bradamante for many more cantos after that, with a little nod in with Orlando, but nothing in particular. And just like also just striking at the very end, because I've just done the very end of just how quickly it cuts off. It's like Ruggiero and Rodomonte fight. They have a great battle, and you expect like someone will win, and then we'll have a whole canto of kind of wrap up. It's like no, they fight, the outcome happens, and that is it. We're done. It's like, did this get interrupted in the middle of reading? This is not my experience of older literature. I mean, hell, even something written in the 20th century usually has that kind of chapter afterwards, unless it's like super ultra modern or is like genre fiction where I got the guy and that was the end of the story. It's like that doesn't usually happen in what would be considered literature. Though, I mean, this is definitely, it's a very visceral, brutal, bloody action literature. So it has that there for it, going for it. I'm not quite sure. I mean, it's a paean to the Este family and the Este line, but it is also violent and smutty in places, and yeah, just full of all that male violence and male anxiety. I just love that. I just love that in this work. We think we kind of we think we've created the ideas of, well, maybe we've come with the labels of kind of toxic masculinity and all this stuff, but it's like no, this kind of stuff was going on well long time ago, which is probably the point, is someone saying this is toxic, because like in this poem you can definitely argue, you can argue that it's a heroic, or b, these are pretty awful, terrible, violent people who will just destroy everyone else, and unless you are a great knight, you're one of the little ones who are going to just get killed, bisected, chopped up, brutalized by them. And oh, isn't that a fun world to live in? All right, so that is my ramble for this little session of Orlando Furioso. Just trying to get out themes or various things I might want to talk about. But I guess it's a good question, is like, well, how am I going to talk about it? And is it something I should do in one video, or should I do in multiple videos? Because that goes over so well. Because if anyone wants to hear about like a 600 or 700 year plus poem, what they really want is multiple videos on that Jeezily long, fascinating, wacky poem. All right, I will leave it there. More videos later.